as we continue our coverage here of the shooting on the Florida State University campus that killed 2 people and wounded 6 others. Now, we know that alerts were sent out to students on the campus within about a minute of those first gunshots, including posts all over social media. I do want to talk a little bit more about the response overall. So let's bring in Gina Rofero, the president and CEO of SaferWatch. Now, that is a safety technology company used across schools, police departments, and public spaces. Gino, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, first off, I do want to ask you, we're talking about Florida State University, located in the state capital of Florida, a very large campus there. What kind of issues, what kind of problems exist when you're talking about such a large campus?
Right. So obviously with large campuses like FSU, right, you have all different response protocols that are going to be in place. But sometimes it makes it difficult to pinpoint exactly where an incident's happening and exactly how to respond to that incident. And more importantly, how do we notify everyone on that campus, right? So it's a little bit easier to notify people in a single building or a individual school. But how do we notify everyone on a large campus? How do we interact with parents and teachers and staff all at the same time while these emergencies are taking place? And I think we kind of saw that a little bit of a communication breakdown, right? During these major incidents that happen, people are always wondering what's going on. Parents are asking what's happening. And it's so important to have these communication tools to keep people updated in real time.
On that same note, did want to ask you, social media, communication in general, again, you discussed this, but how does all of that make it maybe a little more difficult when you're talking about moments after the shooting happens? You have folks that are posting all over things like X or Twitter, depending what you call it, Facebook, Instagram, and only a percentage of that is accurate information.
Right. So during these situations, people are searching for information, right? We're all wondering what's happening. And it unfortunately boils down to a lot of unofficial information that's being spread quickly, which causes confusion. I think, as you could see, there was even thoughts that there was potentially a second shooter at different locations yesterday, causing even more confusion. So it's so important that we have, these systems in place to communicate directly with people as things are unfolding, and have law enforcement be the one to actually be communicating what's happening and take the appropriate actions.
It's important to note here, and it's been noted by the police chief when we've spoken with him, that law enforcement did arrive within, a matter of minutes. There were campus police that were there right as everything was unfolding. But is there anything that maybe needs to be done to help with response times, not there, but nationwide?
Sure. So law enforcement did an excellent job responding to this, right? Eliminated the threat in less than 5 minutes. And we've seen this law enforcement response improve over time, especially after the Parkland tragedy that happened right here in Florida. But at the end of the day, why does it take longer to eliminate a threat than it does to notify people of what's happening, right? So it's just as important to obviously eliminate the threat as it is to notify everyone on a campus. The sooner people are notified, the sooner they can take cover, the sooner they can protect themselves, more lives are saved, right? So if it takes 5 minutes for an entire shooting to take place, we need to notify people within a couple seconds and make sure everyone is able to take as much time as possible to do what they have to do.
Early warning signs, threat detection, we've been discussing that here a lot. Can you explain, though, maybe how that varies when you're going campus to campus? You kind of touched on this, but when you discuss a campus like Florida State University, again, in Tallahassee, the state capital of Florida, a very large campus, versus maybe other campuses across the country?
Sure. So you really have, in all these types of situations, warning signs, right, that take place. And obviously, we're going to learn more about this individual over time. But unfortunately, people had concerns about this person. In a lot of these cases, people just have that feeling, right, where something's off, something's wrong about this individual. And they need ways to simply report information as they feel concerned, right? So that's really what SaferWatch does. It creates an avenue for people to easily report suspicious activity, threats, and crimes to local law enforcement and allow them to take a more proactive approach, right? Obviously, we can't prevent all these incidents from happening, but it is possible. It is possible to prevent these incidents, and it's possible to do it through reporting.
And before I let you go here, I do want to ask you just a little bit more about SaferWatch, what it is, how people can use it, all of that here. I know that it was actually launched after another incident that happened in Florida, right?
So unfortunately, we started the company after the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida, where 42 people lost their lives. And really, we've all heard the saying, if you see something, say something, right? But how exactly do you say something? And so SaferWatch, we created the platform to easily report suspicious activity and tips directly to law enforcement. And to date, we've actually helped to stop and prevent over 13 planned school shootings, just based on tips that people have had about incidents, concerns about someone at school, concerns about someone at work, that have ultimately led to the prevention. So, these types of tools are critical in preventing these situations.
Gino, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and discuss all of this and, of course, tell us a little bit more about SaferWatch. Is there anything else that you want to add before I let you go here?
Well, I worked very closely with the Parkland families after the incident that happened, and I just want to recognize them for all of their hard work that they've done here in the state of Florida to implement different laws and different protocols in place to help make Florida schools safer. And obviously those laws and those best practices have now traveled throughout the country. So we're hoping to see some of those same laws and best practices we've implemented in K through 12 now be replicated throughout universities and other campuses throughout the country.
Gino, thank you again for taking the time to be here with us. We appreciate it.